Welcome to Arts Dynamics Talks. I am Sofie Marin, founder and CEO of Arts Dynamics. Today, we are going to have a very special conversation with one of our member organizations, Kulturlyftet. And I'm thrilled and very delighted to have them on here together with me live today to talk about what they see in the world of music, arts and culture in Sweden and abroad. Also, what their challenges are, what they're seeing for the future. We're going to talk about our collaboration as well and partnership within Arts Dynamics and why they joined. Going to talk a little bit about Folk and Kultur as well, the upcoming cultural political conference in February, and much more. So please help me welcome Ismo Reilison, who's the project manager for Folk and Kultur, and Nina Björby. She's the chair of Regional Music Sweden, vice chair of Kulturlyftet, and chair of the cultural committee of Region Västerbotten. So Ismo and Nina, a very warm welcome to both of you.
Thank you so much.
Great to have you here. So please, first and foremost, for people who might not know what Kulturlyftet, what you are, what kind of an organization you are, would you mind sharing that? Maybe Nina, you want to start?
Yeah, I can start. Thank you so much, Sophie, and hello everybody who is listening. Well, we have three organizations for regional institutions in Sweden, the regional music, and for the regional theaters, and for the regional museums. And in 2016, we had a meeting and started to talk about Sweden need a platform, a meeting place, where we can meet cross organizations and authorities and organizations and so on. And we missed that in Sweden. So we ended up with the idea of Folk och Kultur, which really is what we expected. It's cross-sectoral. It lifts up the regional level. And it's a co-creation meeting place. For everybody who has been in Almedalen, we actually stole the idea of Almedalen, that it's all the organizations and authorities and so on that creates the program. And the first comment took place in 2018. So next year we will celebrate our 10 years. So that is very short who we are.
I love the fact that we're able to actually speak English because, as you said, we are based in Sweden. This is also Folk and Kultur. It's a Swedish cultural political convent and event. But at the same time, we know in the times that we are in right now, it is so important also with collaborations across nation borders in the Nordics, in Europe, and in the world. So also for our international friends who are tuning in, we know that there is a huge interest also from other countries, other cultural organizations. Feel free to just drop a hello in the comments. We'd love to hear from you. And also this talk today is really meant to share expertise, intel, foresight, and to learn from one another, both within Sweden, between the sectors, just like Nina mentioned, but also learn between the countries. So can you please, adding on to that, and hello, Adam, want to welcome you too, because we've got, this is live, so we've got people joining us live now as well. So hi, Adam, great to see you here. So what would you say are the most pressing challenges that our industry is facing right now from your perspective?
You're asking us? Yeah. Well, we have this, of course, the financial and economics, as actually the government in Sweden since 2 years have reduced the fundings. So that takes a lot of work for everybody in the culture domain, and especially in the regional level. But then it's also to make other domains, political domains, understand the importance of of culture and arts for the social and regional and national and local development. and how this makes Sweden or every country more resilient, more culture and arts like the glue in the society. So, and we really, as we come up in elections this autumn, and it's really hard to get arts and culture on the agenda. And I think thanks to Folk och Kultur, we can make this happen, as there are so many authorities and politicians that are visiting the convent.
And why do you think that is? Ismo, from your perspective, why do you believe it is hard to get arts and culture on the agenda?
For the elections on the political level, you mean?
Yeah, from what
we discussed this not always, but a lot. And how come they don't bring it up?
Yeah.
And I don't know. It might be a thing called identity in Sweden due to history. Maybe, I don't know. It could be because, I mean, of course we have a cultural identity in Sweden, or different kind of identities, but maybe not as a nation. And there's some different aspects and terms and discussing issues that politicians take for granted that you're supposed to talk about in this election campaign. I mean, and then at the same time, they look at Ukraine, where you have cultural issues, you have humor, you have all these things to bring people together, but we don't talk in that fashion in Sweden. And who knows, it's far-fetched, but let's say there would be a war in Sweden, then we need to focus on these questions, I think, just to get the identity in place. And then you have a different kind of situation. So it's hard to say. And also when we want the political leaders to come to Folk och Kultur, for example, they usually don't come. There's 2, 3, maybe 4 that comes, but not everyone. But we have the what would it be in English? The cultural political. What do you call it in the ones? The ones in head of the cultural political questions in the government. They come and speak for the party and their politics. But I mean, there's also these symbols. If you have the leaders for the political parties on place, this gives it some kind of different meaning. Of course, we have we have Parisa Lillestrand, who is the cultural minister of Sweden, that's opening these events every time, and that's of course important. But there should be more, and this everybody thinks. And we were talking about this last night. And how would you get the political field to get interested in the cultural field for real? I mean, strong words, I know, but this is something we need to get hold on. And this does not include all politicians, of course, but on the state level, I would say.
Yeah, thank you.
I will also. I think also that people take the culture and the culture workers for granted also, that this will just go on and everybody's so happy because they can create and so on, even if they know that it needs money. And it's also it's not a big economy, culture, so they want to talk about healthcare and defense and also a sort of thing that have those billions and millions. And I think that's also a reason why it's neglected. And also I think that people in Sweden, politicians in Sweden that are not in the culture domain are a little bit afraid, because they are afraid that they will say something wrong, or they don't know how to behave, or if they don't know an author, they will be ashamed. So, and sometimes the culture domain and the arts are a little bit on high horses and doesn't open up. So I think this goes in both ways.
Absolutely, and I think, and this is something we need to focus on also when we invite people to come, for example, to Folkkultur, and we need to get people from different branches, absolutely, but how do we do this communication? How do we meet up with tech? How do we meet up with the economy and so on? Because, as you know, I mean, at least this is my picture of it, working with culture. It's this cultural family. We know how to do these things. We don't need anything from outside. Yes, we need the resources, we need the money, we need the spaces and so on, but we need so much more. And we need to know how to interact. We need to learn that again, I think.
Yeah, I'm sitting here today feeling very humbled by the fact that we're able to have this conversation, because I find often that we talk about being in silos, both in the cultural and creative fields, but also when we speak about tech or the private sector. I hear about silos from many different areas of expertise, and here we are. We're able to talk about these things where just anybody could listen from, whatever field they're coming from. So this is really an opportunity to address what you are just now highlighting, the challenges that you see, and hopefully then the opportunities as well that we want to also address at the end. But Nina, from you talked about high horses. As you said, that we have a lot of needs. We want to be seen. We want to be treasured and valued in the arts. But you also mentioned that sometimes we can be on our high horses, and it can feel hard or difficult to actually join in. So I think we are having a little bit of going back.
Sorry about that.
No worries. And now we lost Nina, and now you are back in, but it's fine. So I basically just said that we talked about it going both ways, where also the arts and culture, on the one hand, we have a lot of needs, but we can also sometimes be perceived as being on our high horses. It can actually be a little bit hard to enter our field. So Nina mentioned that. So what is your take on that?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of things to say about it, of course, but I mean, the culture field is so very broad. I mean, you can't just talk about everything or everyone in the same fashion. But if you look at the institutions where we work with taxpayers' money, we have taken this for granted for all these years, and all of a sudden things happen in the world, things happen in Sweden, and now we're gonna, how to say? Because the Swedish government says you need to get new funding from the economy, from sponsors, and so on, and we are not used to do this kind of work. So how should we do this? And this is actually very important to know how should we talk about this. There's this investigation going on in Sweden that should be reported 18th of May, I think. How will we work with sponsors and so on? And this is important, but also what will happen after this? Is this the the Holy Grail? Yeah, now we know how to do it. No, of course it's not, because we need to actually learn to know each other, and from there on we should go on working. And also, it's very easy to fund things in Stockholm, Göteborg, or Gothenburg, and Malmö, of course, big cities in Sweden. But what happens if you go outside of the cities? Yeah, there is some challenge, because you need to focus on that also.
I'm
sorry, I was thrown out, so I missed the last 4 minutes. So
it is.
So I don't know where you are.
Live. And that is the whole point. We are live. This is and for people tuning in and listening and watching, first of all, welcome to everybody who have joined us today. We are very happy to have you with us live during this session. And then things like this happen from tech can happen. But what we discussed was, Nina, there are needs and wants in the cultural and creative sectors. But as you addressed and Ismo answered, that was also, we can sometimes also be on our high horses ourselves, and it can sometimes feel a bit difficult to also understand what we're about, what the value that we bring, and it can sometimes feel a little bit harsh as well on those high horses. So Ismo mentioned a little bit about monetization, and that there is now this report being built, and they're doing a lot of research from the government level to see, how we can find additional funding for our industries. But we are about to move on, because I'd also love to see, okay, where do we want to go? But before we move on to sort of the future, or what we want to see in the future, is there anything else from, if we were to do just like a snapshot of the biggest challenges, the biggest problems, is there anything else that you want to address that you see from the cultural and creative sectors?
Well, I wanted to, because I also play in the marching home guard band in Umeå.
Yeah.
And we can see what has happened, as Ismo mentioned earlier, what has happened in Ukraine with the home guard bands. They have increased from 10 to like 60, 70 now. And the armed force has understood in Sweden how important culture, both the cultural heritage and also the music is. So, well, the 25 home guard bands in Sweden have got a lot of money and resources and all sort of things. So it's kind of frustrating that one part of the national level has understood this, but the other hand do quite the opposite. So this, I hope, can in the long term calibrate some sort that the two hands understand that you have to have both.
So when you say two hands, what do you mean by that?
Well, the culture department and the armed force and the Ministry of Defense. So it's yeah.
And for context, as you say that, for our international listeners, there is right now, we just had as we have Folk and Kultur, we have the same for defense in Sweden. It was just placed just a few days ago. And geopolitically, where we sit as a Nordic country and things that are happening now at a political level, and for us as a country, there are a lot of talks about this. And what you are addressing here, Nina, too, is we have a lot, especially here in Sweden and in the Nordics now, about the importance of spending more in defense and in other sectors. But how does culture fit into this? And we know for a fact that during wars and during times of crisis, arts and cultural and creative industries are more important than ever, because it does strengthen the identity of a country, and it helps unite us as citizens as well. And we have had in Sweden now this Kulturkanon, also these efforts to sort of highlight what are typical Swedish, great artworks and authors and artists that we need to remember forever and ever and cherish. So there's a huge debate about that. But we're not going to stop there. We actually
but I just want to also that you have to remember that well, like the Circle Throsby made like 10, 15 years ago, that if you don't have musicians, if you don't have painters, if you don't have well, who will create the arts? So you have to start when the children, and this takes time, and you have to have the infrastructure, and you have to have the fundings.
Yeah.
So that's why we created Folk och Kultur, so we could have for like 4 days. This is everything we talk about, 24 hours a day.
I mean, it's an ongoing process. If you refer to Folk och Försvar, the defense days that were last week, I think it was. Of course, if they raise the question of the importance of culture and identity in case of a war or something like that, you can't just pick it up and think it's going to work, because this is an ongoing process. And this means, I think, you also from the cultural field, you need to invite politicians, for example, politicians, as we speak about them, to the organizations or to the processes to see what does it really mean to work with these things. Not to sit chief in the staff room having a coffee and talking about it, but go down on the floor to see what does actually happen. What is this all about, and what is it they're going to be deciding on or giving funds to, and so on and so on. Yeah. I mean, everybody's somehow included in the thing called culture or arts. Everyone. But how do we actually also speak about culture in our own field? If you know what I mean.
Yeah.
And we have status also in the branch or in the field that is not always very good if you look at outside. I mean, so there's a lot of things to do. Yeah, for sure.
And I know we've had several conversations, you and I, about also how we actually do communicate. What are the words that we're using? What is the lingo, if one can say so? If we have a specific way of speaking and talking and expressing ourselves in different sectors too, and sometimes there can be overlaps and misunderstandings just because of that. So moving on then, and thank you for giving a snapshot and sort of a few highlights of the challenges or the problems that you're seeing and facing today. Moving forward then, what would be the ideal future then? If we look 1-3 years ahead, what would it look like if we could just wave a magic wand and everything was perfect?
I mean, we when we meet together with our board, we always talk about how should it look. I mean, today, let's say today we have about 85% coming from the cultural field during these days that we have in February. But the number should be like 50-50. I mean, 50% coming from different kind of branches, fields, and so on to meet up with the culture. But this means also that we should be on other fields meeting up, not just expecting others to come to us. We need to come to other people also. So I think this is something we should look forward to try to develop. And also it's difficult, but we need to take that challenge to make this last, I think.
Yeah. What about you, Nina? What do you see from your end? In an ideal world, looking a few years ahead of time, if everything was perfect. This is like the perfect entrepreneur journey, by the way, for people listening. It's like, what are the problems? What are the future? You know, what is the ideal scenario? And then what are the steps to get there? So what would be the ideal future for us in the cultural and creative industries or sectors?
Well, I must say, I have much hope for the future, because I have noticed that more and more politicians and other people talk about culture. And that is, some say, thanks to, I would say, due to the ultra-right party that has spotted what will happen, as they have a very driven culture politics that will narrow what we think about Swedish culture. That has made the other parties much more aware of, we have to discuss also culture. We can't take it for granted that the culture is free, that the culture is not governed by politicians. So that is, on one hand, I think is good. And I really hope that the understanding from the different departments, the finances, the defense, the educational, everything, that in every domain you have to have some sort of culture and arts on your glasses, because this will make Sweden stronger, richer in all sorts of ways, as the people, but also for the economics. So this I really hope, and also that there will be an understanding that the culture is also a welfare domain, and it's also a very, very important domain for the BNP. So step by step, I hope this will happen, and I also hope that Kultur is one of the causes why this is happening and will happen.
Yeah. I'm really excited about hearing more in a few minutes about this convent this year, because I do know there's a record number of attendees. You've got so many programs. We're going to be there too to have conversations. I'm super pumped about that. And also, it might be good to point out that Kulturlyftet, Folk and Kultur, just like Arts Dynamics, we are non-political. This is a neutral space, which is also good because that means you can meet across the different, whether you're left or in the middle or the right, we all come together, and also with other, as we said, other sectors too. So on that note, also from an ideal perspective, where do we want to be in a few years' time? What do you see the biggest gaps be between culture, tech, business, and public systems today? How would you want that to be? Because I hear a lot more that, more than ever before, I hear talks about cultural-driven urban development, cross-innovation, cross-sectorial, collaborations, and how important it is for everybody now to come together. And I also see, and please correct me if I'm wrong, it looks as if we see more and more of those initiatives happen as well. So from that perspective, ideally, in a few years' time, what would that look like?
Well, I hope that we'll be much more understanding, and also that we step by step get to know each other, because it's when people meet in panels, but also over a cup of coffee and in the sauna or wherever you want, that things will happen and things will change. As Ismo said before, it's so important that we are from the culture domain going to other events and convents, and that they come to Folk och Kultur.
And it's always a question about invitation, of course, and making it known. But I was thinking concerning tech, I mean, there's big gaps there. Of course, there's many that know about this and are ahead of other, but as on a whole, I think there's a lot of gaps in knowledge and how to use it. And for example, some months ago, I will not mention which company it was, but all their translators were sacked, or however you would say it, overnight, because you have AI. And that makes you also wonder, what does this really mean? And then when you see the translation in the beginning from the AI, that's just, come on, it's horrible. This is not what they say. It's interpreted in a different way. Of course, it's in the start. But anyway, what does this really mean? And I think there's a lot of fear, and there's what will happen. And this we need to talk about. What does this actually mean? Do we need cultural workers in the same fashion? Of course not, if we go to tech. Or is it that way? Or would this give new dimensions in how we can work with these things? So I think this is also one reason why we are in this, in the Art Dynamics, to get these connections, to get these talks, to get this communication going through this. Because we don't, I think a lot of people don't know what this really actually is about.
Yeah, and thank you that was a perfect bridge into our collaboration and you joining as a member organization, which is huge in itself. We are super humbled that you have decided to join. We've got other member organizations. The Swedish National Touring Theatre have joined. We've got Go Business, PDO Science Park, and also culture workers, entrepreneurs, even private theatre venues, both in Sweden and actually internationally now are coming together through our membership cluster, our academy, coaching advisory, and creative lab, where we do focus a lot on cross-innovation and collaboration. And it's wonderful to see what happens when you do bring people together from different fields. So exactly that. Ismo, why Arts Dynamics and why now? What are you hoping to get out of our collaboration?
I mean, of course, you and I have been meeting a couple of times and talking about these things and these issues and connecting culture, arts, and economy. And it's, of course, very important. And with all the things that come with that. and just to start feeling the ground. How could we meet? How could this be something that develops for something that everybody has some kind of share of and goodness of? And this is the main reason, I think, and also to get into this arena where you have all these functions. But this means also, of course, that we need to be active. We need to be on spot. At this point, we have no time because we have this Folkkultur to take care of. But afterwards, so I mean, the responsibility is totally ours. What do we want to learn? What do we want to connect to? What do we want to communicate? So this is, I think, the most important part, why we are part of this, to see where it leads us.
So it's almost an R&D, research and development together, working out and figuring out perhaps some answers to the questions that we have. And as you said, access to different rooms, right? So because often we don't get either invitations to those kinds of rooms, or we don't have the connections or the networks. I know I hear that a lot from other of our members, and also from the tech field or from private, commerce and business. They are also really curious to learn more about arts and culture and to know more about you and Folkkultur. And in fact, we are hosting a session there with a special focus on the commercialization of arts and how to take back power as an artist, as a creator, as a cultural organization. And just that sometimes can be super almost, how should you say, triggering sometimes to talk about tech or digitization and monetization, because it's like new territory. On the one hand, we want more money and we need to future-proof what we do. But on the other hand, we don't want public funding to go down. We actually want it to go up. How do they work together? So would you like to speak to that a little bit from your end? Nina?
I can start also because I think everybody, most of us, we want and we talk about co-creation and collaboration, but it's costly, not so much in money, but in time. And if there's something we lack today, it's time. So I hope that Art Dynamics can be that bridge that make us to take away a little bit of time to really be able to co-create and collaborate.
Yeah.
So no pressure.
No pressure. No pressure.
I was also thinking about what Nina said earlier about politicians, that maybe it's about courage and fear, that you're kind of afraid going into some kind of arena and not knowing how to be or what to expect and how you should communicate. And I think this is also, you need the courage to get into these spaces. I mean, however would you? And also seeing that, as you said, Sophie, that we don't get those invitations from A, B, C, and D, and so on. And I don't think that's a question of they're not wanting to do that, but you don't think in those terms because you have your own kind of space. This is where we work. And I mean, you can't reach everywhere, but you should reach somewhere.
A bit of guiding, because it's very hard where to start, who to talk to, who to invite, where to go. So that also, I think, is a point of view that we can help each other.
100%. I also, from my own 30 years almost plus in the industry, being both employed inside music, arts, culture, having my own business, going into tech, going into private, and now it all coming full circle. What I'm noticing on a personal reflection is that not only do we often speak different languages, freelancers in the cultural fields speak a completely different language, and they also have different needs than the startup culture, which is much more hustle and bustle. It's much more fast-paced, and it's completely different fuel almost that exhausts many from the cultural fields because they're already overstimulated. They don't need more, bells and whistles. They actually need peace and calm, and they need, structure and order to do that. And so I find that I'd love to, together with you and other members, to explore this further this year, where there are overlaps, but actually also differences. Just like scale-ups have their own energy and their own way of doing things, and cultural organizations obviously is completely different too. So that will be super, super interesting to discover. So thank you so much for sharing that. Since we do have people listening in from different line of work, in the world of business and entrepreneurship, we often say, what's the ask? What's the ask? So let's say I was an investor, or I came from a tech company, or I was a company, maybe I was a property developer, or I was someone else. I actually had money. And I said to you, well, what's your ask? What do you want? How can we help? What is your ask? What do you want them to know?
I think we would want them to know very many things, but this is actually the thing. At the same time, we maybe don't know how to ask. We don't maybe know how to package some things to have the right ask, if there is a right ask. I mean, if you talk to economy, then you get different answers, but you need some kind of a platform for understanding. And what can we offer? We know we can offer a lot, but how would we package these things? There are some that do it so well, of course. I mean, you go to Gothenburg Symphony Orchestra that has Volvo, they had them since 1980, and so on and so on. But there's so many small actors everywhere, and everybody can't be in this system, of course. But I think this is the main question, because when you go to these panel discussions talking about these questions that ask, then last fall there was somebody from this field saying in Stockholm that for the culture to come to the same point where the sports are, it will take 10 to 20 years. And I mean, no, this can't be right. This is something you say because we're so long back in this development or this evolution, but there should be some way to get to these questions. And the only way, I think, is to get to meet each other. You need to talk. You need to find the language which you speak. You need to know what to say and what to expect and how to say it. Because we know how to speak in our field, but then all of a sudden we knock on the door, it says supervisor, blah, 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 or something like this. We know this person or this company has a lot of resources. We could do good for them. They could do very good for us, but how? And we go in with something like an artist goes in, can we collaborate with these things? Yes, of course we can. But what will this result in? Yes, we have this process for 4 years, but maybe there will be nothing in the end. What do you mean?
So I'm going to challenge you a little bit then, and to say, with Kulturlyftet in particular, let's say we were in an elevator and you had your dream, X, Y, and Z, whoever you wanted to hear your message.
Yeah.
I don't know what that could be, a private actor, someone with money, a politician. What could we do to also support Kulturlyftet?
Before Nina answers, I want to say something.
Yeah, what are you looking for, and how can we support you as an organization?
The Kulturlyftet, this is a big organization, and the organization reaches all of Sweden, reaches almost all children, the public, the elderly people. I mean, there's a lot of things going on that are totally fantastic. The thing is with this, I think, as I've been working in this field also, we don't communicate this to people. We don't communicate this to an audience. We do this in a meeting with an audience in a concert hall or in the space happening. I think you need to discuss these things further, broader, because this also connects. This is my point of view. This also connects to politicians. This also connects to elections. How come nobody talks about culture when we have an election going on? Yeah, is this maybe it's because we don't do it in one way or another.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden there's a threat coming from somewhere, and then we need to talk about culture as a resilience. Hey, stop. We should have done this long time ago. This should not only be talked about when there's a crisis situation.
Yeah.
So I think this should be in our mindset all of the time. Then I think also it's much easier to do the ask.
Yeah.
Whoever you're going to do the ask for. Or
the reason I'm asking also is because I know I was asked to do pitch decks when also for Arts Dynamics at the beginning, and I was sort of pulling my hair because when you have your artistic vision and you have your big dream, and it's like there are so many things you want to say, but it's like in the end it's like, but what's the ask? You should be able, or we should be able, I say we because it's the same for us too, in a few sentences, what is it actually that we want to talk about? What is it exactly that we're looking for? So thank you so much for playing along. I think this is potentially something we could also explore together, because as both of you have said, so many of us in the cultural creative fields, we don't really know how to package and sell and promote. And it's one thing to want to be listened to, but it's like, what is the message when we then, if let's say we have a minute or 2 or 3 with someone who actually does pay attention, what do we want to say? So Nina, I'm going to leave that to you as well, that question. And then let's move into Folk and Kultur for 2026. Nina, what do you, from your perspective, Västerbotten, Folk och Kultur, Kulturlyftet, what's the ask? What do you want to say?
Before the elevator pitch, I think money talks and follow the money. If I take the region, 99% of the budget goes to healthcare, and 99% of the discussions and debates also. In the little bit how you count in Sweden, it's 62% of the national budget. So this is quite nothing. So how make people talk more about the not only culture but regional and social development? And for the culture domain, I think, well, it has an impact in so many other areas, like the tourism development, the innovation area, in a philosophical way, what make us people. So, and also everybody wants to attract more people to the cities or the regions or even to Sweden. So, well, if in my domain in the healthcare, well, I don't think that anybody moves to Västerbotten with the eyes, I want to be sick and I want to be sick in Västerbotten. Of course, we must have a healthcare that is top notch, but it's all the other things that make people move to somewhere. And in this domain, culture is a so important domain. So your children can go to a library, that they can learn to play music or be on a stage and so on and so on. And you need money. It doesn't come by itself. I don't know any commercial library, for example, and I think it's a really bad idea. Like, well, we buy a lot of books and then we lend them out for free. I don't think there's one company on the world that will have this as his pitch. So this, I think, is a long his pitch, but I hope you understand what I'm looking for.
Well, we do definitely want to strengthen the cultural domains for sure. I think it's so important. And packaging and pricing and being clear about the outcome, not only what we want, but also the outcome we wish to see. I'd love to explore that further with both of you and with your organization and with everybody in this network. So moving into Folk and Kultur then, because you've got an amazing conference coming up. I was blessed to be there last year, also on panels, and we talked about money and monetizations. I think it was me and lots of politicians. I think you were there too, Nina, on the panel, if I remember correctly. So there were several there, and it was an interesting conversation we had on, how to combine public funding, private funding, how to support grassroots initiatives, whilst also lobbying for policy, to take place, to also make room, so top down, bottom up, and everything in between and beyond. So what can we expect for Folk and Kultur 2026?
I think you can expect a lot. It's a very broad program, and it's very much connected to the situation we are in right now in Sweden and in the world, in the question of the meaning of culture and democracy in the world and in the development. So this is also something that's the thing we're working on, and I think it's very exciting because this shows, despite what we have said this last 45 minutes, there's such a need for culture questions, issues, for developments, for answers, for asks. What is the meaning of this? I mean, and how, as interesting as to go to folk culture is what happens afterwards. How do people or institutions, organizations, artists take this further? And we have several talks afterwards that say that, yeah, we met and we developed this, or we did this and this, and this is nothing. This is how it should be, of course, but it's very interesting, and also how some questions follow up long afterwards, and not only crisis questions, but also the things that has meaning and bearing for some society or some people somewhere.
Yeah.
But there's going to be a lot of programs. We have like 350 programs this year, and I think it's some kind of maximum for this event as it looks right now. We have also this collaboration since 2 years back with Denmark and Norway, and talking about communication. As a Swede, when you put a Dane on stage, but I don't know how to. I can't speak Danish. I won't understand what they say. Just relax. They will speak slowly. De kommer tala mig långsamt, as they say in Denmark. So I think that there's no problem. And this also, how do we connect? Do we all? Of course, we need to speak English if we don't know the language. But this is also what folk culture is very much about. It's an arena for meeting. It's very much an arena for meeting and networking. So there's a lot of things going on between programs. So I think you should come to folk culture just to see what it is, because we have all of Sweden here from all regions, from the Nordic countries, and also the thing that has happened here has now developed to one day they will do a pilot in Helsinki in Finland in May, which is very exciting, and see where can we go from there. So it's very broad. It's when press asks, can you lift up 2 or 3 things? Absolutely not, because everybody is the hero here. Yeah. It's so important to say this, and this, I mean, because always you lift up these poster figures that everybody knows, yes, this is why you should come. But there's so many small things being talked about and addressed to that you easily miss, which you shouldn't.
Is there an overarching theme, would you say, this year compared to different years?
No, we have this theme that is called, it's like how would you say? It's the meaning of culture and the arts in the development of the society and democratic aspects.
Okay.
This is the main thing. Then we have small themes, more like inspiration, you could say. So this is the 9th year for Folkkultur, and next year we're looking ahead for the 10th. So maybe who knows what kind of government we have. So also you see the development going on in the society that you also see, of course, at Folkkultur.
Yeah, so I'm thinking of also the people who have submitted programs that they want to host. If you can see, are there particular themes or focal areas, particularly now for 2026, particular things that you want to discuss or talk about?
Yeah, you can absolutely lift all kinds of things. Economy is one, AI is another, cultural heritage is another. I mean, things concerning school questions, the thing about reading for children and all this, but also the cultural political issues, the bigger ones that always are in focus. Yeah.
Nina.
Well, as I have been from the beginning, it's like a bit blurry what happened different years, but I hope this year will take it another step further again. And it's so amazing. Again, I compare with Almedalen, that you have non-profit sector meeting party leaders, meeting the Cultural Council. We had a discussion between the Minister of Infrastructure and Minister of Culture some years ago, and they were talking about the social security for culture workers. And even if they were in the same government, the Minister of Infrastructure had no idea what the circumstances are for culture workers. And we have had construction companies talking with artists about how to design the society. The church is there, the different parties. And so this broad way of people at the same time under the same roof, it's amazing.
Yeah,
I would say. So
I agree. Yeah.
We also work with the indigenous, with the Sami, and also Greenland with Inuit. And these issues, of course, that we also started 2 years ago in a collaboration with something called VRMEK, that is the Sápmi cultural organization in Sweden. And all these things that come up, I mean, it's a society that many Swedes don't know actually nothing about.
Yeah.
So there are so many fields and so many branches and so many small details that you easily miss. Also in a thing like this, we were talking yesterday, and they said, or I said like this: when you go to a convent like this, or convention or festival, you tend to go to something you already know. How is that? Why? I mean, the thing is, you should come with new questions back home with you. So if somebody would ask, I would say, go to something you don't know anything about, because this is going to richen you in some way, hopefully. I think that's also very important. Otherwise, you just keep in your bubble. And this is my branch. I know this. And now I'm going to listen to my friends. The same thing they have said 2 years ago. You need to change your mindset somehow.
And maybe I'm also thinking about the in-person meeting, especially in a world, speaking of AI, deep fakes, we don't know anymore what's real, what's not online. Speaking of Greenland and other things happening right now rather rapidly. I know I met ICORN last year, also refugees, and to be able to meet in person like this, to have a meeting space like Folkkultur, it's very unique. And again, why I feel it's so great that we're able also to speak English now, because obviously often at these convents, it's the same with Almedalen and others, we speak Swedish, right? But we also have many different nationalities in Sweden. We've got our international colleagues and friends, and also artists and creators that actually are fleeing right now or are feeling unsafe in their own countries. So to broaden the conversation like we're doing right now with people who actually, you work with this every day, you are the experts, you know, you've got the connections, and we're able to plug into that ecosystem and connect other ecosystems, and together, hopefully, you know, build new paths and forge new paths forward. Nina, did you have anything else before we could start? We're about to sort of wrap up a little bit here, but do you have anything final to add regarding Folk and Kultur 2026?
No, I'm fine.
Yeah.
I hope we meet everybody there.
Yes. Well, I'll make sure that we include the link in the show notes so people know where to sign up. Also, for our listeners, either if you're here live or watching the replay or listening to the podcast on Spotify or a podcast platform, we will also be at Folk and Kultur, and we will be there both with an exhibition stand for 3 days, and we also have 2 sessions. So one is focused on artistic freedoms and cybersecurity, since Arts Dynamics is very much in the intersection of creativity, tech, and innovation for impact. We want to explore that. Our theme for the year is artistic freedoms. Artistic and financial freedoms go hand in hand for us. So when we move into the world of tech, we're going to use Folk and Kultur as a starting point for the next step of our project Cultural Firewall, which is a great example of how you can use a convent like this. So we're going to be there together with our mentor in this field, expert Hanna Linderstål. We're going to talk about when the unthinkable happens, and are you prepared to see. We are now moving into the world of AI, immersive, VR, XR, and we're using all these digital tools. But what do we know? Are we safe? And in the world of deepfakes, what happens if something bad happens? So we are actually going to do like a full-on scenario, like a crisis scenario. So I highly recommend anyone in the space to come and actually in real time, together with an expert who works with the top, agencies in defense in Sweden and worldwide, to come from a cultural, creative perspective into that. And we will also hand out a practical checklist as a digital resource. We will continue to talk about that in our exhibition stand as well. And then on the Friday, we've got the money, a conversation on artistic freedoms, monetization, and self-determination. Again, about artistic freedoms, where we believe very much that financial empowerment means that you're able to create more freely. And we've heard in this conversation today also, Nina mentioned the libraries, we've talked about public funding, urban development, and all these things. They go hand in hand. And money talks, as was mentioned before. And if we're able to sustain ourselves financially, then we're able to do more good things together. And it sounds as if we agree, all of us here today, and hopefully our listeners too, that arts and culture is important, and maybe now more than ever so before. So we've got Edgar Luxak, who is the head of advisory at Epicenter Stockholm. He's also a partner and the chairman of Epicenter Group. So he will be there together with Susanna Dahlberg, who is the CEO of the Swedish National Touring Theatre, Länsteatrarna. We will have more people coming as well. This is on Friday morning. So I highly recommend for anyone who's looking for additional funding, for ways to commercialize with the artistic integrity intact, to come and have a conversation with us. And then on the Friday, so what we're going to do, and also thanks to you both and Kulturlyftet, we're able to do this now, the exhibition stand. We're going to have an immersive day on the Wednesday, so people can come and try out new technologies, VR, XR, AI, to explore like a digital safari on the Wednesday. On the Thursday, we'll look into more of the threats and cybersecurity and all of that. And on the Friday, more the financial and commercialization of it all. So I just wanted to do a little bit of shout out. We've also got several members who are going to be there. So come and meet us, come and obviously take part in this amazing convent, and go to the website to sign up. Oh, do you still have tickets left?
Yes, of course. Yep. Absolutely.
Okay, excellent. So as we wrap up, is there anything else I have forgotten to ask you that you would like to share or add to this conversation? Any final words?
I don't know. You're warmly welcome to Eskilstuna and Folk och Kultur in a couple of weeks, actually.
Yeah, see you in Eskilstuna soon.
Brilliant. And where can people find out more information about Kulturlyftet?
Well, Kulturlyftet is only the association behind. So the members in Kulturlyftet, in the theater and the music and the museums are the important. So go to all the 66 members of Kulturlyftets homepage all over Sweden and find out where to go.
Wonderful. And again, for our listeners, we would love to continue this conversation with you. You can meet our members, Ismo and Nina and others inside our Arts Dynamics community. I'll drop a link in the show notes if you want to join there. We actually have a free community forum where you can just plug into this and continue the conversation after this talk today. If you need help to connect with anyone, maybe on this talk, or if you want to find out more about Folk and Kultur and other things that we've discussed, just reach out. This is an ongoing conversation. We are doing these lives normally on a weekly basis, and it's really just because no one can figure it out by themselves, but together we can move mountains. So with that, friends, thank you so much for listening. Ismo and Nina, thank you so much for taking the time and for sharing your wisdom on today's call. And welcome back, everybody, next Thursday, the same time, the same space and place, where I will be speaking with Oddfest in Finland. So watch out for more information about that. So with that, thank you, everybody. Over and out.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.